Welcome back to Practical and Positive Leadership. I'm May-Dunn, CEO of Arizona Escrow and Financial. Each month, we bring you actionable insights from leaders who've been right where you are. Before we dive in, don't forget to like, follow, and check out past episodes for you can't miss leadership insights from top professionals. Our guest today, Teri Hill, is an executive advisor who works closely with leaders and organizations to strengthen strategy, decision-making, and leadership effectiveness, ultimately helping executives close the gap between strategy and outcomes. Teri, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Monica. I'm really excited to be here.
Teri, when leaders are facing high-stakes decisions, where do you often see things start to go off track?
Well, Monica, it's really two places. Often it's right in the beginning because they haven't asked the critical questions that they should be asking to see if they're even ready to begin with. The second place that it happens is kind of midway. So midpoint, people are tired. The leadership gets misaligned. They haven't focused on the capabilities they need to execute, and it just stalls. And actually, it's really sobering when you think about it. The research shows that 37% of those types of strategic initiatives stall or fail. Mm-hmm. That's really high. Right. And we hear often about how important it is to work on the business instead of in the business. And in the business has got a shorter time horizon. So when you're working in the business, you're thinking about maybe days, weeks, months, maybe quarters. But when you're working on the business, it's kind of you start at quarters at the shortest point. Maybe then you're thinking a year out, or even decades, or even generations. So the confidence levels go way down. So it's so important to have that focus on what it's going to take at those 2 points. Be ready, and then keep the momentum going midterm.
Yeah, it's momentum. It is all about the momentum. We just talked about that.
That's right. It's absolutely so about the momentum. The momentum and the confidence. So the confidence actually comes from being confident to make decisions.
Yeah.
And where decisions stall, you see the progress stall. Okay. You also see leadership get more disconnected. You also see the chaos among the team members and confusion and anxiety. You also see the culture starts to get damaged. So making sure that you have that confidence in the key focused areas that are really going to make a difference and move the needle, that's what really matters.
Right. And being consistent.
Being consistent.
I feel like that really makes the whole process much smoother when you're consistent. Oh. And I think your teammates respect that as well. And I think then when they know that you're going to be consistent about a decision, then everything just runs a whole lot smoother.
Well, because they can't be aligned if they're not, right?
Right.
So the consistency actually comes from being able to see, starting with the end in mind, seeing where you're going. I happen to use line of sight that looks at 5 factors that are really critical on executing, but you need to understand the alignment that you have on those 5 factors. And those 5 factors is what stays consistent throughout. Let me give you an example. So the 5 factors that we look at is strategic intent. Are we all aligned on why customers buy from us to begin with? Number 2, what about our leadership? Foundational, really critical. Number 3, what about our metrics? How are we actually monitoring, watching the way? Number 4, what about our structure and processes? And number 5, what about our people and culture? So it's like those 5 things, watching and making sure that they stay aligned along the way towards an end in mind. That's monitoring those and being able to do real-time course correction is what's important.
And they all go hand in hand, and they all have to be working correctly.
And integrated. And
yes.
So it's not that, sometimes even when you talk about readiness or you talk about leadership, it feels like that's a no-brainer. I got that. That should be really easy. But you just hit on it. You hit on the hard part. Which the hard part is keeping the focus, keeping it integrated, keeping it consistent, and keeping it visible. That's the hard part.
Yeah. Do you find it's more about the decisions itself or uncertainty around?
The decisions themselves, often executives don't ask the right questions to begin with. So they don't ask the right questions. So that's what can make the decision go good or bad. But most strategies aren't bad. It's really in the execution. Strategy's taught, execution isn't. Right. So it's really the execution of it. But there are some really basic areas to ask about up front, just to make sure that you're ready and confident with your decision, that you're about to go forward. So it's before committing to go forward that you need to ask some critical questions.
That's excellent. In our world, decisions often impact multiple parties. So clarity and timing matters. Just just as a decision is made, it's for itself.
Right. Absolutely. I'll walk you through the framework that I use that I really encourage all leaders to look at before they make those kind of decisions. I call it READY. So that it's like, okay, it'll be easy to remember. Let's use an acronym that's READY. And then that way we can say, are we really ready to embark and really go on this? So READY. Yeah. So it makes it easy. So R is reason. Do we have the right reason to change? Why do we have to change now? Why do we have to do something now? Do we understand what's at stake? That's the R. The E. The executive sponsorship. Do we know who's going to drive this? Do we know who's going to be accountable? Do we know who's going to take it into their teams? Do we know who's got the personal commitment around it? That's the E. The A, the alignment. So the full alignment you need after you make the decision. But before you go into it, you need to know who are the makers and the breakers of what you're going to do, both inside and out. And if you don't have that alignment, at least understand how you're going to get it. At least have some kind of strategy around it. Then the D, think about the decision makers. Who's actually going to be making decisions along the way? What are the parameters? What's the decision authority that you give to these people? And then my favorite is the Y. So the Y is for yield. And I use that one because it's got really two meanings to it. The first is yield and pause. And just for that pause, that meaning of it, which is, do I have the resources behind this to do this? Do I have the people? Do I have the team? Do I have the dollars? Do I have the risks mitigated? So you just yield and ask yourself that question. And then the second is the other meaning for yield, which is, do I understand what's the return on investment of those resources that I'm looking for, and what's the time frame, and how am I going to monitor that? And that's all before you get started. Then you have to monitor and look at the execution itself throughout the process.
Wow, that's fantastic. You've worked with leaders across industries and over decades. What's changed about the organizations actually need from leaders in order to execute effectively?
That's a really profound question. I'm a advanced facilitator of the Leadership Challenge, and I really recommend that book to begin with for everyone to read. Yeah, Monica, your leaders or your audience might be familiar with it. I think you actually addressed it on one of your episodes with Lauren Turner.
Yes,
I think you talked about it for a little while.
But,
so let me tell you just one quick second about the Leadership Challenge. So the definition of leadership, according to Kouzes and Posner, is the art of mobilizing others to want to struggle for shared aspirations. So these days, words like struggle, sacrifice, all those words are unpopular words. Yet what people are really looking for from their leaders is they're looking for who are you? That's their first question. They want to know your values, and they want to know that you'll actually say them and speak up. Number two, they want to know, what do you believe? What are you willing to stand up for? And number three, where are we going? So they're looking for that for others. So they actually, these days, people want to struggle for something worthwhile. They want to struggle for something that's worth to make a difference. And that's what leaders are being asked to deliver now more than anything else.
Yeah, it's all about the sacrifice. And I think the struggle, it makes it feel more rewarding at the end when you know that it wasn't easy, but we got through this.
Well, it's interesting that you say that too, because the research actually shows that when people are struggling just slightly above where they are, so they're aspiring to something, they actually are 5 times more productive, and they do their best work. And so the research also shows that when leaders are asked, tell me about a time when you were at your leadership best, and this goes back 40 years, this part has been consistent. They always tell stories of times of struggle, times of challenge, and that's why it's called the Leadership Challenge. Because that's when we all rise to the occasion.
Absolutely. What's one leadership habit that's becoming non-negotiable?
Well, credibility. And credibility doesn't sound like a habit, but it actually is, because credibility's foundation, we even call it the first law. So do what you say you will do.
Absolutely.
Right? So we just talked about say how important it is to be willing to stand for something and be willing to speak that, have a voice. Yes. And then the do, your actions must align with that. If people don't believe in the messenger, they're not going to believe the message.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you commit to do something, you have to do it. And that also goes back to your values and your reputation.
Absolutely, because it's again, it's part of your character, who you really are as a core, and for together we need to have those shared values so that we're all behaving in the same way.
Right, right, absolutely. So what does readiness look like?
What I do when I'm a visited speaker, and when I speak or during my workshops, I use something called the execution trinity, because I think it's really these three things coming together. So one is really about the capability to execute and the alignment of that. So that's non-negotiable. You have to have that. Number two are the right people in the right seats at the right time. And every leader who's had the wrong person in the wrong seats at the wrong time understands the cost of that. Yeah. So that's really, really important. And then the third piece is that leadership foundation, because without the leadership foundation, the other two fail anyway. So that's what it looks like. And what I do is I use three assessments that are cost effective and take minimal amount of time to take a snapshot of those three factors and be able to take a look and say, okay, where do we need to focus and pinpoint most to keep that momentum and actually close that gap.
Yeah. How can a leader recognize if it's missing?
Well, if they do regular pulse checks, so if you regularly monitor so that you're able to course correct. So, and you can do that easily with all three of those. So the one, you look at the actual capabilities that you're using, the actual factors to execute, and making sure that you're up to speed on those and that you've got alignment. Number two, your people and culture. You have to watch on that. You have to keep track of that. And then that third piece is on the ongoing leadership development and integration of the leadership team.
And I think that ongoing culture, I feel like it's always, it does shift. So you have to constantly stay on top of the culture.
It does. It does. It's living and it's breathing. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So there is no such thing as culture neutral behavior. There's no such thing. So every moment, every act, every leadership conversation, every single step is moving the culture in one direction or another.
That's powerful.
Yes.
You've likely seen leaders at both their best and during difficult times. What separates leaders who navigate challenges well from those who struggle?
I'd like to reframe that. I don't think that that's necessarily an or, that's the and that comes together. So, and let me explain that. So who navigate well. We just talked about that. We talked about the tools that you can put in place. Doesn't have to be hard, doesn't have to, but it needs to be there so that you can track it and you can look at it. So that's navigate well. And then you also use that word struggle. Well, it's embracing that struggle, using that struggle as the momentum to get to the next level of yourself, of your organization, and of your people. So it's embracing that and giving the tools and enabling others to act so that you can get through the struggle.
Yeah, I like that. The ability to stay steady under pressure is something we see in complex transactions. So the ability to remain calm and work with experts who've entrusted makes all the difference.
Have you ever been in a car and then someone else is driving and you go into a dense fog and you're not really sure where you're going to go? Well, the heart rate goes up, you kind of hold on like foolishly, and put all of our trust in that leader. Like, is that leader really know where we're going? Does that person driving know what we're going to do? Is that person going to help us clear the fog? And then now let's switch, and you're the driver.
Yeah.
Okay, and you're in the car, and you've got passengers, you've got kids, and you go into that fierce fog. Okay, what are you thinking about? You're thinking about, how am I going to navigate this? It's more than just me, it's all of them. And I'm going to take all of that into consideration as I want to clear the fog so that we know where we're headed and that we're going to get there safely.
Yeah, I like that. That really makes you think about, because we've all driven through fog or a dust storm here in Arizona, but being responsible for all those people and your passengers on your...
That's right. That's right.
that are following behind you, yes.
That's right.
For leaders who are in the middle of growth or transformation, what's one thing that they should focus on first to make the strategy actually turn into results?
You use the word focus, and I love that word focus because that's the magic. Having the right monitoring systems so you know where to focus when. It's about course correction and being able to have that dashboard, that screen of knowing what's going off and where to apply the effort at that moment. Okay, because it's never the same. Just like the culture is not the same, change isn't the same either. So the research shows us that change never moves linearly, and it never moves at the same pace.
That's true.
Right? Mm-hmm. So you have to be monitoring that so that you know, and you can whether it's easy pulse checks, whether it's predictive index. I use that. It's the world's largest tool for behavioral science. I use that. I use the leadership challenge. So it's watching these things so that you're able to make the adjustment before it goes off the rails.
Yeah, because you don't want it to go off the rails.
You don't want it to go off the rails. 37% of those working on the business, fail.
Oh. If I've learned anything about strategy and about the plan, is having everybody in alignment when it comes time.
That's right, because everyone wants to pull their part, so they need to know what their part is. They need to know how they fit in. You can use words like plan, vision, it doesn't matter. You're moving from one spot to the next spot. And people want to nest into that vision so that their part matters. So you're absolutely right. Having the plans isn't the hard part. It's following it and making sure that everyone else is aligned. We often say, the powerful leaders or the effective leaders are not those that are way out in front. They're the ones that are moving, but they're constantly making sure that everyone's behind them and coming along and following.
Yeah, I like that. Yes, because we have to be there to support them.
That's right.
And if they struggle, to bring them forward.
That's right. And I love that word support because it's servant leadership. The more we're leaders, the more we're there to serve.
Teri, thank you so much for being on the show today. Can you share a little bit more about your service and where people can get in touch with you?
Sure. Well, what I do is I help them get the tools in place to be able to close that gap between the strategy and the results that they're looking for. That's what I do. Best way to reach me is on LinkedIn. I'm out there as Teri Hill. That's too hard to find. Teri Hill, AZ, and I always pop up. And I'd be very, very, very happy to offer some complimentary assessments to our listeners.
And I highly recommend those assessments.
Thank you.
It was really eye-opening to see. I was like, oh, this, I thought it was all very, very correct, but very detailed on your different personalities and where you fit in best.
Yes.
And yes. And so is it Teri Hill Consulting?
It's Hill Summit Consulting.
Hill Summit Consulting.
Yes. Thank you, Monica. It was really fun.
And to our listeners, if you've enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your feedback helps us bring you more practical insights into real-world leadership. Until next time, stay practical, stay positive, and keep leading with purpose. If you've enjoyed this episode, please make sure to subscribe and click on the bell to be notified every month when a new episode is posted. Then leave a comment on what resonated with you the most and watch another one of our practical and positive videos.